Get our final panel to come up. Hold your applause. I'll say their names while they come and join me on stage. We've got the Group Chief of Staff from STC, Mr. Ibrahim Al-Suail. Thanks very much. The Chief Communications Officer, Senior Vice President, Marketing and Communications from IBM, Mr. Jonathan Adeshek. Thanks very much. Pro-Rector from NUST in Pakistan, Dr. Osman Hassan. Don't worry, have a seat, I can stand. And the Deputy Regional Director, Regional Bureau for Arab States, UNDP, Ms. Sarah Poole. Thanks very much. Thank you. So we've heard from the group some pretty interesting and specific issues. I wonder if you would give me one key insight, each of you, that you took away that you hadn't thought of before we got here. Starting with you.
So thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to come here. I mean, I would say that cooperation between the different stakeholders would be the key. So we have to work with academia, industry, government organizations, society, all of us together, and as well as the international partners, so we could really make a difference.
Okay, thank you.
I think in our conversation, there was a discussion about too many economies, too many organizations, too much fragmentation, and how do you get through that, which I look at from my regular job, but it really amplified a little bit in the conversation here.
Okay, did it have a resolution?
Do we have a resolution?
Or just a cautionary tale?
I think it was more of a cautionary tale. I mean, I think the resolution, actually, I would say the resolution is getting some certainty on and some unified standards that can go cross-border and help you scale. Okay, fantastic. Ibrahim, what about you? What was the key insight that you came away with?
First of all, actually, I'd like to express thanks for DCO for having such an event and the panel as well. Copying actually on what Jonathan also said, it's the collaboration between nations, actually, cross-border collaboration. And I think one of our, in our table, one of the members actually expressed a very interesting digital exchange across nations, not only in the region, but actually cross-border transformation of digital exchange.
Okay. Sarah, what about you? Key insight.
Thanks. Also sharing my thanks, but also my congrats to DCO for this event. I would share two, and I wouldn't say necessarily that they were revelations, but I think they were revelations in the sense of, let's say, reinforcing some ideas coming in, and that would be first convergence. I think the discourse around the room, the different examples, highlighted so many of these interconnections in terms of how we're coming to this very human-centered issues of inclusion, issues of human-centered, human rights focus, but also that notion of the ecosystem and how it's essential for all partners to really engage in terms of different elements. And the second observation really points to that interconnectedness. We were pondering that second question that said pick one obstacle, one challenge. And we were saying, in a way, this is like asking us to pick one sustainable development goal.
Right, but everyone has their favorite one.
Everyone has their favorite, exactly. But at the same time, they reinforce each other. So those two really, I think, hit home very strongly.
Interesting. So I want to focus in on this point of the private sector and the support and the partnerships that come from that. Let's hear from Jonathan and from Ibrahim around what your organizations are doing to support the growth of the digital economy.
So I would be remiss if I didn't say it before. Thank you for the forum from DCO as well for having us all together. It's been a great conversation. We as a company have made a commitment to skill 30 million individuals by 2030. We can't do that by ourselves. And we have to partner with governments, with NGOs, with organizations around the world to really scale that. And we're doing that. I mean, that is a key place that we are really partnering to make the difference. Because in my perspective, my personal view is skills is the essential thing to really driving the digital economy. If you don't have the skills, you're not gonna make the transition. And for me, it's not just, I know there was conversation about skills at a younger, education at a younger age, but for us, at IBM, we look at skills across the board. And we're also working on how do you then offer opportunities and work with governments to offer opportunities. We work with our partners in private sector as well to say, do you need a college degree or a university degree to get a job? Can we go back and reevaluate what can be done with just a skills-based job, which then opens the aperture of opportunities for people much wider than it would be normally.
Interesting. Yeah, Ibrahim.
Well, on two aspects, the national agenda as well actually the private agenda. So the ICT sector plays a major role within the government and achieving the Saudi Arabia Vision 2030. There is a huge actually emphasis to grow the sector. I mean, last week you've been in the AI event where actually we listened to experts talking about how AI can actually evolve into the telecommunication and technology as well as the digital enabler part. From the private sector, I think the main driver for this, and we've mentioned, it has been mentioned all over, beginning by the Secretary General, Ms. Dima, is the infrastructure, where actually we are investing heavily in infrastructure, whether it is 5G, fiber, or also submarine cable. And those are the drivers for, or the main infrastructure, main layer actually, to build on the application as well as the talent, where actually they develop the use cases from those technologies so that they can build on a future circular economy for the digital economy part. We have around 70% of the urban household have fiber connectivity within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, so that's a huge number for the digital economy. A lot of the good examples, like the Flower Lady as well as others. STC itself, not only building on the infrastructure, but also developing, having a VC for entrepreneurs so that actually they can build their ideas, having them use as use cases within the company, and then actually go and market their product and services. Again, we're also doing the building the largest data center within the country. So we have partnered with service providers to build the data centers and actually bring having the kingdom as the regional digital player in the MENA region.
It's difficult to find a place actually in Saudi Arabia where you can go and not see an STC tower or box or provider. It's absolutely fascinating. You are everywhere. Dr. Hassan, I'd love you to tell us a little bit about, from a university perspective, thinking about the students within your university. I know that in Pakistan there's a great emphasis on getting people getting their hands dirty, doing solving real-world problems. I'd love you to tell us about anything that you heard today that might really chime with some of the students or faculty in your university, and how your university is working to give those skills, not only give the people the skills, but get them out solving real-world problems.
Sure. So coming from Pakistan, I would just like to share that we have a huge potential to do big, because 60% of our population is between the ages of 15 to 33. And about 50% of the country, they have access to internet, even though it's not great, but still, I mean, we are talking about 220 million people there. So we have a huge potential. What's missing is the coaching part, the mentorship part. And the university can play a big role. Being one of the top universities of the country, we are trying to facilitate those people, to train those people, bring the government, the public sector, the industry there. Now, one of the main challenges that we have is that the industry is not that big. So currently, we are contributing about $350 billion US as far as the IT sector is concerned, but it's not big. It's just 1% of the total GDP. Now, how to enhance that? That's the main challenge. You know, we can give the skills, so we have seen that we bring people at par as far as the digital skills are concerned. But then there's the big, you know, the Death Valley, where most of the ideas fail. Now, this is where I would like to kind of, you know, ask for support from the international community, because this potential is huge. And through this platform of DCO, if we can provide mentorship to those students, those faculty members, those entrepreneurs, so that they can, you know, talk to industry people, how to, you know, take their ideas and transform that to a product. I would just like to share an example. So there was a startup at our university. It's called PriceOi. You know, they started small. It's just a recommendation engine for, you know, digital markets. And now they just attracted about $7 million from various companies in the US. I think PayPal was one of them. But again, there was a lot of mentorship coaching through that channel, which was provided from our platform of the university. So many other ideas are there. We need support from the international community. We want to work with all of them so that we channelize these.
What kind of mentors are you looking for? From which kind of organizations or companies?
You see, the main thing is like the ideas are there. They know the market, they know the local problems. But how to turn it into a business is a different ballgame. This is where we don't have a lot of mentorship coming from the local people because we have not big, industries there. So anybody who has gone through through these phases, these people who got success, we had actually, given them the opportunity to come to Silicon Valley, talk to people. This kind of platform is not available for all. But nowadays, with all the virtual channels that we have, we can definitely, let them talk to people. And I'm sure that they can do really big in this context.
Fantastic, thank you. So let's come back to you. Tell us a little bit about some of the digital projects that your team is working on in the Middle East. Did it reflect any of the conversation that you heard here today?
Absolutely, and I'm thinking again about that term of convergence because the example that I want to share first I think reflects a lot of the conversation, the issue of the partnership with the private sector, also looking at some of the disparities, for example, the gender divide when it comes to digital, but also this issue of how we can use digital also as a powerful enabler for development. And I think where the convergence that I'm about to share is that the example that I was thinking of also very much relates to the issue of entrepreneurship and mentorship. We had a very dynamic discussion at our table around also culture and how some of the barriers are actually, they're not quantifiable because there's a very strong cultural element. So the example to share just in brief is that in the Arab States region, we're partnering with GSMA, the Global Mobile Operators Association, exactly on this issue of looking at two interrelated challenges. One is the gender divide when it comes to digital access, but the other is the issue of the gender divide when it comes to women's participation in the labor force, especially around the issue of entrepreneurship. So we use some of the more innovative tools, for example, the nudge methodology, looking at what were some of these barriers and how to ever overcome those. And one of the biggest barriers was, again, linked to human capital, linked to knowledge, linked to access, but also linked to culture. And this is where, through that partnership, it's called Women Innovators Program, we're able to partner with GSMA exactly on the issue of concrete mentorship around women startups, especially encountering some of these barriers on the digital space. So I think, at present we have 77 experts that have been working with about 500 one-on-one mentorship opportunities, also to help them to advance in terms of actually establishing but also growing the startup. I'm sharing that example first because I was inspired also by your perspectives on the importance of that. But I think it links these different elements of it. I think, as a final note, I think the aspect of where we need to explore further is that issue of scale up. We have results, we have good lessons, we have experiences to share, but as we're looking at really how to capture that strong opportunity of digital as a powerful transformation, especially for people and for planet, which is the backdrop of our digital strategy, we have these examples, but then how can we partner further so that we have that scale-up potential?
Fascinating, thank you. I see Jonathan's furiously taking notes here. Anything to add? And I'd love you guys to finish with maybe one thing that you would love for the DCO to be able to do. What's the one thing that they can really do in order to make serious change in encouraging digital cooperation and inclusivity? Dr. Hassan, and then Jonathan.
As I mentioned, we need to work together. Any platform that connects people from the developing countries to the developed ones would be excellent. That's what I would be asking for. Yeah.
Okay, Jonathan.
I would push for a unified standard that all the member countries are going to adopt as it relates to the cooperation in the digital economy that will help us have a set of certainty as a multinational company to invest and scale these projects and scale the opportunities. Because otherwise it just gets fragmented and it becomes too hard and
Okay.
people lose momentum.
Concrete. Thank you. Ibrahim.
In addition to what has been said, I think actually building talents across nations, this would be actually an interesting for all, so that we have a standard, not only regulations, but also on talents and what they can learn as basic, and then build on that.
What are the skills you think people really need?
Mainly on the programming, mainly on the, I think actually the two aspects are programming and marketing. So building on the product, developing, designing the product, and actually marketing this product
Okay.
within the country and across borders as well.
Thank you. Sarah, one thing DCO should do, you'd like them to do?
So I think the recommendations that came up through the roundtable, a lot of them resonated. So I think taking stock of what's coming through these conversations is important. But I would really emphasize on top of that the issue of knowledge and the issue of networks. And I think having the scope to be able first to foster what are this wealth of experience in this room, the different examples that came forward, but then also how do you build the networks so that they're not individual, they're not just one example that we don't really benefit from the learning, the networking, and really, again, going back to that issue of scale up.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's give them a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Great. Thank you so much. Well, our time together has come to an end, but I want to give you my thanks for having me with you here today. We've heard some incredible ideas. In fact, I had to stop writing down the number of phrases that I really liked, including data is the new air rather than the new oil, including issues around enlightened regulators, which is one that I particularly liked. So I'd like to thank you all very much for being here. The DCO will continue to be in touch with you. Thank you so much for having me here, and enjoy the rest of your UNGA week. Take care.